Hello there, and welcome to episode 2 of the Star Wars Universe podcast. I have a guest this week, Hayley Hobbs. Hello, Hayley. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hello, James. You don't know what it took for me to not say General Kenobi after you said hello there.
Well, for people to hear a bit more of that conversation, they need to listen to Source Pages, which is your project. You're just a lady of podcasting, aren't you?
I have been lately. Yes, it seems that way. But I'm honored to be your first guest.
Yes, you are. You are my first guest, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So am I.
Good. So this is my first time doing an interview-style podcast, so we'll just start off with the first question, really, which is, when did you first get into Star Wars?
I got into Star Wars in a meaningful way during the pandemic, is what I always say, but I so very clearly remember the first time I watched a Star Wars movie, as most Star Wars fans do. That's kind of always your entry into the universe. And I remember being at a house that was owned by friends of my parents, and I was the youngest person there. There was a whole reason why we were there, but I was only 12 years old and nobody else was my age. And my dad's friend said, "Hey, do you know what DVDs are?" Because it was that time of the, millennium, I guess. And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And he went downstairs and showed me how to use their DVD player and that kind of thing. And then kind of left me. He was like, "Here's all the movies we have. Take your pick." And I remember looking at them and kind of like, just gravitating towards The Empire Strikes Back, because I was like, people always talk about Star Wars. I think that this is a movie I should watch. And so that was my first Star Wars experience. And it's just funny to think about that. And then I always watched the tentpole movies, but 2020 is when I was like, I want to know more about this after Moff Gideon appears at the end of season 1 of The Mandalorian with the Darksaber. My husband and I were like, what is that? We need to know what that is. And that really got us more into the storytelling and lore of the animated shows. And then I started really diving hard into the literature. And so it's just been ballooning from there. And I love how utterly rich the universe is, with both the genres you can follow and the amount of kind of legend stuff that you can dive into.
Excellent. So you were, because I've heard you refer to yourself as a Johnny-come-lately to Star Wars.
I was. And then I thought about that story of how I first saw The Empire Strikes Back, and I'm like, well, I guess I saw it very young, but it wasn't something I grew up with. It wasn't something my dad had on all the time. We were like a murder mystery, James Bondy type family. That was kind of what was always on in our house. And so I always loved sci-fi and fantasy stuff. And I think I went through a period of life, as we all do, where you think you're maybe cooler than you are, and that maybe that stuff's not for you. But as I've gotten into my 30s, I'm just way more comfortable appreciating all that those stories add to life, and really embracing being open about my fandom with them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's that's just one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast, is to sort of celebrate fandom in general, Star Wars specifically, obviously. Yeah, it's the fact that no one should be ashamed of what they like.
No. And no one should be made to feel bad for maybe only liking certain parts of something. One thing I really don't ever want to be as a Star Wars fan is somebody who gatekeeps the fandom, because I think that that's such a negative part of the fan base. And it doesn't matter. Like, if you enter Star Wars by reading only comics, then great. If you enter Star Wars by only watching the movies, I think that's great too. Everybody has their level of appreciation and kind of how far they want to go, because it can be, like, you and I talk all the time about Star Wars. It can be overwhelming to try to dive into this world. And if you don't want to go that far, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that.
Exactly that. You can go as far or as near as you want within the fandom. It's all valid, because as long as you're a fan and you're contributing positively to the fandom. And that can sometimes be not contributing to the fandom.
Right. Feel like you're going against the grain.
Yeah. It's or just there's no point interacting with people that are just going to try and put you down. Whether that be my big thing recently is I don't like Andor.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind it. It was fine. But I'm also trying to really reserve judgment on the show as a whole, because I know it's only half the story that's been told so far.
Right.
I didn't really like Cassian in Rogue One. I wasn't sold on the whole concept of a series about him. But then I sort of sat with it a little bit and went, actually, I really loved the Empire inner workings. Prison arc was decent from my view, but that one of those final shots where what he was contributing to was just absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, you can disagree with somebody and not have to put it down. I was on a friend's show recently, and one of the other people on said that Kenobi was the best thing they thought Star Wars had put out. And I said, well, I think that's great. I disagree with you personally. I think that Ahsoka is, but, I don't care because that's your experience. And I think that's wonderful. That was a great show. I don't, it's like, oh, let's politely disagree with each other and still be friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? A lot of the time you find a common ground with someone, don't you? And that's how you become friends. And then you find other common ground, and that's good friends. Star Wars, for a lot of fans, is that sort of initial common ground. Certainly you and I have interacted an awful lot over Star Wars and our sort of shared love of the universe. And I think we've got quite similar interests within the universe as well. Mm-hmm. But I know that other people have said, oh, I really like this about Star Wars, which I might not like. Andor, prime example.
Right.
Cool. Awesome. You love Star Wars. That's not necessarily my corner of it. I love this more, but I'm really glad you like it. Mm-hmm. Because they will then hopefully make more of it. And more Star Wars is better than no Star Wars.
Absolutely.
So you kind of alluded to the fact that sort of you went in hard during pandemic and the lockdowns and things. Was The Mandalorian your first sort of non-movie interaction, or had you sort of dipped your toe into books or comics or?
No, I really hadn't. I just knew I liked Star Wars, and I remember Mandalorian coming out and just being so blown away by it and realizing how they could enhance the world so much through this television show, and how it really still rang true though to what George Lucas originally, in fact, it's truly what George Lucas wanted to do, was a serialized version of Star Wars. And they made that a reality, and they dropped Easter eggs here and there that if you knew, you knew. And if you didn't, it didn't matter. And then once I knew all of them and I went back and rewatched it, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I was like, oh, there's books and there's comics and there's just endless amounts of ways to learn more about all of this. So that's, I had all the time in the world, it felt like, on my hands because I was working at home, and so I went hard.
Absolutely. Go hard or go home, eh?
Yeah. Totally my way of approaching things.
Absolutely. So I remember, I think it's episode 1 of season 2, The Mandalorian, Cobb Vanth appearing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, Timothy Oliphant. And I didn't know who the character was because I hadn't read those books. And I was just like, I can't wait to get to those books. Still haven't.
That's the Aftermath trilogy, right?
It is definitely on my list of ones to listen to in the not too distant future. I kind of want to tick that trilogy off in 2024. But High Republic,
it really kind of dominates.
Does, but in the best way. In the
best way. Yeah.
But I've made that commitment to an entire era as it's coming out, which I've only ever done once in Star Wars before, which was the Legacy of the Force,
nice.
Jedi series. Though I got those and read those as they were coming out, but that was just a series of 9 books per series, and they were coming out over the course of like 2.5 years, so it's a bit easier than
the content release was different back then. We weren't inundated with it the way we are now.
No, and I think they're just sort of tapping into all of the different facets of media release, capping off with the Acolyte coming out, which is spring next year, isn't it?
That's hard to believe because we haven't heard a whole lot about it.
No, well, the strikes and everything have prevented a lot of the marketing and things like that. Although I do know there was the trailer that was released at Celebration. Next question I have here is a big one for you. Who is your favourite character and why?
Ahsoka is my favorite character because I find her to be the most relatable for me. I like a lot of the other female characters in Star Wars, but she's just such a real character, and I think it's because we get to grow up with her throughout all of the materials that are available. When we meet her, she's just a kid, and even though she's still technically a kid at the end of the Clone Wars, she's grown a lot, both in her Force abilities and as a person. And then now that we got this show with Rosario Dawson in the role, and obviously we're going to get a season 2. I just think she's one of the richest characters in the franchise at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't disagree with you in any way, shape, or form. One thing I really loved from the Ahsoka series was actually seeing just how young she was at Mandalore flashback, because I think the way they portrayed it in the Clone Wars, she's much more adult.
Yeah, she looks like she's 21 or something at the end of the Clone Wars, and she was 17. Yeah,
that's insane.
Not even legal here in the US.
No, but it's not here either. to vote and to drink and stuff. It's not. It's just, you're still legally a child.
Yeah,
she's the general of a war, and she beat Darth Maul, and she survived.
She's a badass. Yeah, she's just and she's not perfect. She's not a character without her flaws, which I think the Ahsoka series uncovered some of that. And it's funny, I think people find her to be fairly unflawed, and that's why there was some, maybe backlash is too strong of a word, but people saying, well, why is she so like dour and she doesn't seem happy and she's not being very Ahsoka-y? And it's like, I wouldn't be either if I've been through all the things that she's been through. And I think, she was going through a crisis of faith after what we know happened with the Clone Wars and with Anakin and Darth Maul, and then Sabine as her apprentice. And so I think one of the coolest moments in that series was seeing her open back up and be lighter and happier again and feeling more fulfilled in the Force and in her role in the universe and in the new universe now.
New galaxy, at least. Yeah. I'm very, very excited to see where they go with that. I do love that moment where she actually makes the decision, where in the World Between Worlds, where you actually see her eyes change. Absolutely phenomenal. And then she goes, no, I want to live.
Yes.
Even though you turned back at the end.
Oh, I'm getting chills thinking about it. So well done.
It is brilliantly done. And I think part of that is, a large part of that is Dave Filoni being consistently inputting, no, she wouldn't do this, no, she wouldn't do that. And actually learning when to pivot as well. Mm-hmm. She was not well received in the Clone Wars movie, and that for the first few episodes, or first half a season probably. And they'd listened to that, and I think part of it was probably the plan, but I think they probably sped up the plan a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure.
she was such a main character in the Clone Wars. But yeah, no, she's an absolutely fantastic character. Whilst I say it's a big question, there's no actual wrong answer.
It is a big question, but that's my answer.
Fair enough. I'm just going to throw in an extra question here. What's your favorite ship?
I loved the Razor Crest in the Mandalorian. I loved the Razor Crest, and I was real sad when it got blown up. Because I thought, even though it was an older ship, I liked that it was just plain silver shiny, and he had all these little nooks and crannies on it, and it just felt distinctly his, even though it was, a former gunship. And I don't know, I was sad when that one exploded.
Yeah, absolutely. Razor Crest is definitely up there for me as well. It was weird after that episode where they blew it up, because you kind of sat there and went, am I nearly crying because a ship got destroyed?
Yeah, but when that's your home, like, it's really depressing to think about everything you had was in there and it's all gone. But it also kind of drives home this point that he was sort of a nomad, and it kind of grounded him in that purpose of finding Grogu and stuff like that. So it was a necessary sacrifice, I guess.
That's one of the best things about good writing. And it's not just limited to Star Wars. I didn't want to limit it to Star Wars. It's the best thing about good writing. Like, if you can get an audience to care about an inanimate object, and when something happens to it, and I think probably the earliest example I can immediately think of off the top of my head is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
The car was a character,
Yeah.
It's not an inanimate object because it is kind of sentient, but I've become a little bit obsessed with Geode.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Geode is fascinating. I need visuals of Geode. I just picture him as like the monolith from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
It's that's a really good sort of cross-universe reference there.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that, but a bit shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know how he moves. That sort of very much flows into probably my own obsession with my favourite character, Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a mystery. It's kind of, I can't find everything out about him. So
the thrill of the unknown.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also it's a sentient rock.
I know. It's that can plot hyperspace paths, right?
And pilot.
And interact with other species and yeah.
Likes the ladies.
Does indeed. Is a bit of a Lothario. If I have to choose another ship just based on purely like coolness, I'd say the Mandalorian Fang Fighters. Yeah,
they're very cool.
Those are like my peak badass ships.
The way they land, the way they come up and land.
Yeah.
It's just cool. There's so many cool starships in
Star
Wars. They're amazing. What is your favorite era?
That is maybe more challenging to come up with an answer to. I don't know that I have one, actually. Recency bias wants me to say like this New Republic, but I don't know if I can stick to that because I think that the era that would be my favorite would just depend on what I have the most attachment to. And right now, I think that's what's going on in the New Republic. And because we know that it's a very complicated time and unfortunately, it'll be a short time frame as well, but there's still so much story to tell in this era that I like that potential too.
Saying it's a short period, it's probably 30 years, which is longer than the Empire.
That's true. So much for you, Empire. But I like the whole Imperial Remnant drama of it all, and then how the Republic went so hard trying to go the other way and demilitarize and stuff like that, which of course doesn't work out in their favor. And I think that we have really cool Luke story potential that hasn't been 100% tapped into yet. And for me, like, because I didn't grow up loving the movies, Luke's not one of my top 5 characters by any means, but we saw that little bit of him in The Mandalorian season 2 and how we could see this full-powered Luke Skywalker, like, building his school, his temple, and all that. I really want to see more of that because I love the kind of everyday nature of learning how he got to that point from being the farm boy and then to how he was the recluse over on Octo. So, I'm going to say New Republic.
Go with your gut. Trust your gut. Absolutely.
Yeah, it'll probably change in 2 years.
Might well change tomorrow. Who knows?
Probably.
I think, obviously, from the Legends perspective, there's so much, even in the 30-year period that we're looking at, because the Legacy of the Force series happens roughly the same time as the sequel trilogy. And you've got like the whole New Jedi Order 19-book series, comics, you've got everything, random trilogies. You've got the Thrawn trilogy in there. So you've got an awful lot in Legends, even if we don't get it quite filled out. There's some good, there's some bad in there.
Yeah, they put out a lot of... I haven't read all of those books yet. I'm trying to get through all the canon stuff first. And they keep putting things out, so it keeps getting more challenging to keep up. But I think I'm going to try to stick with those Essential Legends collections that we talked about last week on our show, because otherwise it doesn't feel manageable. But you do need some of that background. Yeah,
absolutely. And obviously keep an ear out for this podcast, because we'll be doing recommendations as other people are reading different things. Last episode, someone was reading Lost Tribe of the Sith. That's a great 8 short stories collected into one volume. That's really good. I really, really enjoyed that, and that's set in the Old Republic. So there's so much good. I think the only real sight of Luke we've had in between Return of the Jedi, very end of The Force Awakens, outside of what we've seen on The Mandalorian, is Shadows of the Sith, isn't it?
I believe so, which that is an excellent book.
If you could have a lightsaber, what color?
I should have been thinking more about what you might ask me. I would like to think that I could be very in tune with the Force. I'd like a green lightsaber.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Knowledge.
Yes. I would like and I think that fits my, like we were joking about how I go hard, but I do try to deep dive into things that I find interesting, and I'll hear a word or a phrase from anywhere, anything. I'm like, what does that mean? And I immediately go to look it up on my phone because I don't have a problem not knowing things. I don't mind admitting, oh, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I do want to know. So I will look it up. And that makes me sound like I know a lot when not necessarily the case, but I just am good at looking things up and then kind of being okay with retaining that knowledge. So I'm going to go with the green.
It's a good solid color. It's an original color. Oh no, it's not an original color.
No.
It was added. I managed to watch the original trailer for Return of the Jedi.
Oh, cool. Old trailers were hysterical.
Oh, it gives away so much.
Yeah.
It's like Luke standing over Vader's body, throwing his lightsaber away. I'm like, that's the end.
It was all fodder.
It was, but there's a moment where he catches his lightsaber on the sail barge and ignites it. And it's the first time we see it's green in the film. In the trailer, it's blue. But they then show him with a green lightsaber later on.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how like that stuff was just done because it didn't matter because you didn't have the internet. And so it was like you could get away with all that. And now it's 2023 and we're like, oh, but that happened back then.
I remember the response to the Ahsoka trailer, and they show obviously Ray Stevenson's lightsaber, and everyone was like, "It's orange. Why is it orange?"
Yeah,
what's
is my color wrong on my TV?
I remember Filoni came out and was like, "I didn't think you were going to catch that quick." I was like,
Dave, don't underestimate the Star Wars fans. You are a Star Wars fan, Dave. Well, it's funny that like I chose green for knowledge, and yet in Ahsoka, Sabine has Ezra's old lightsaber, which has a green blade. I don't know that matters so much to Dave Filoni because his characters kind of pick up sabers here, there, and everywhere, and without a lot of that connection, like in the OG and the prequels, it seemed like they made more of a focus on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of focus on it in other canon storytelling. They've actually completely changed from Legends to the canon what the colors mean, because before it just used to be a case of you could synthesize a crystal, and Luke's green saber crystal was synthesized, and that was how the Sith always got their crystals, was they synthesized them and sort of they would rush it and they would just pour power into it, and that's why it was red. Whereas Luke took his time. Whereas now I think there's a general consensus of headcanon retcon. Luke finds Qui-Gon's crystal, and that's why it's green.
That's cool.
Because obviously Obi-Wan walks out with Qui-Gon's lightsaber at the end of episode 1. But finding the crystal, they all start off clear, and when you sit and meditate with it, it gives you a colour, and that's why sort of Mace Windu's is purple, because he sort of straddles both light and dark. Blue is warriors, which is sort of the default. Green is for those scholars. Yellow is the protector, so that's why the temple guards are yellows. And orange is obviously straddling the dark side as well, but not fully embracing Sith. And obviously Ahsoka's a white because she purified the Inquisitor that we see in Tales of the Jedi. So it's they've completely flipped everything. But I think Dave is much more happy to as you say, share them around and
like not lean too heavily on that, because it does kind of, if you stick to that conviction, then you may be limiting yourself storytelling wise down the road.
Yeah, and you're also giving away a key component about character, I guess, as well. Whereas Sabine, I think, as we found out, is not particularly force sensitive.
Right.
Little bursts of it. But as Huyang. Thank you. Really struggled with that word then. Said that she's like the worst Jedi Padawan.
Yeah.
I think they can lend each other, but it will stay like Ezra's was green because he was deep diving on the Force and learning so fast. Have you seen the theory that his new lightsaber is blue because Ahsoka gave him back his old crystal?
I have, yes.
I love that.
I also just love the idea that Huyang has like just a ton of crystals on standby. Yeah. Like, you know, like diamonds at a jeweler's. He's just like, here, this one will be fine.
Yeah. Go sit with that one for a bit.
Don't have to be precious about this anymore. And both things can be true. You can both need the color to mean something and not at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's if you're seeing the person create it and sitting with it, and obviously then that comes into it. But yeah, sharing them round, and obviously Ahsoka went through, I think it was 6 lightsabers in the series.
My gosh, so many.
She went through so.
Well, and even her Shoto blade when she got her second blade was like that yellow green. So it was kind of it wasn't the pure green like we usually see.
Yeah.
So hers were two different colors at one point.
Yeah, and it's like, what does that mean? I think Filoni was just having fun.
He was just like, I can do what I want, and I'm going to.
So we've spoken a lot about media and your interactions with media. Have you gone down any of the toy or experience routes or anything like that with Star Wars since the pandemic?
Not experience. I live in the middle of the country, so both of the theme parks are really far away for me, and it's one of those things I want to do. It's just not right now. But someday we'll get there. And I'm not a huge collector of things, which might make you laugh, as you can see my bookshelf behind me with my Funko Pops. But there is one, and she's in the middle. You can sort of see it's the Leia Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary, which is my favorite iteration of Leia because I think she's the most like together and self-assured of the original trilogy movies. And I love her little camo poncho. So that's what she's wearing in that one.
Excellent. You definitely need to get an Ahsoka one in there, though.
I have Ahsoka ones. I have one right here next to me. It's from, I think it's Mando season 1. And then I have Bo-Katan. I got her for $3.
Nice.
And then I have End of the Clone Wars Ahsoka at my office at work.
Because I know you've got some on your shelf at work.
Yeah. So I specifically collect female heroes for Funkos because I wanted to keep it manageable.
It's a dangerous hobby. It is a dangerous hobby. Yeah.
Even the ones I have right now, I'm like, this is getting to be kind of a lot.
Yeah. I had quite a few, and then I got rid of, passed on to the kids. I have to focus my.
Yeah, you really do. You've got to be like, this is if you want to, like, if you want it to be controlled, and if you need it to be, which I do. I'm like, I don't have a lot of shelf space in my house, so I intentionally am keeping it the way it is. I also have Finnick Shand. I can't forget Finnick.
Classic, well, not classic, it's a brand new character.
She feels classic, though. She feels like she's always been around.
Yeah, classic bounty hunter. And Ming-Na Wen is a classic female hero.
Total queen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm only granted a small amount of space in my house. So
it's a good thing, like, in my world.
If money or time travel, anything like that, was no object, is there a collectible or an experience that you would love to do?
Yes. I'd love to go to Celebration. Anywhere. I don't care where they're having it. I'd love to go to Celebration. And I wish I could like pay enough money to like have dinner with Dave Filoni or something, or just hang out with him.
This is pure fantasy. If you want to,
yeah, like that's something I would totally blow money on. Let's say it's for charity. Okay.
You bid on it at an auction at Celebration.
Yeah. That would be peak amazing for me. And but I stop myself when I think about, I'd love to buy an original prop or something, because I don't know that I would actually love to have something like that. I find more comfort in the stories than the things. So yeah, I guess that's my boring answer.
Sitting down for dinner with Dave Filoni is not a boring answer.
It would be so fun. Except I'm super awkward around celebrities, so I think maybe that's not the best idea for me.
Is he a celebrity, or is
he is to me?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, as I was saying that, I was like, he is to me. he's God to me.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm like, are you my hero? Maybe. In Filoni and Feige, we trust, as we say.
Absolutely. The respective universes are safe with the Fs.
Yes.
And Favreau as well. Got to throw him in there. Yeah,
the 3 Fs. They're ruling the world of the geeks right now.
Those were my questions.
All right.
You made it through.
I did it.
The next thing to talk about is, what have you done in the last month in Star Wars?
I had to write down before we got on, because I thought, I don't know that I've done very much. And then here I have this page full of things, mostly which has to do with reading, but obviously finishing the Ahsoka show, which was just, I don't care what people's criticisms of any of it were. It was the most perfect Star Wars thing for somebody like me who loves that character so much. And I was fortunate to have a lot of airtime to talk about it. We covered it on PandaVision. We're talking about it on source pages. So much fun to see my Rebels love come to life like that. And then I've been listening to the From a Certain Point of View books out of order. So I finished Return of the Jedi, which already, as I'm only a few stories into the Empire Strikes Back one, Return of the Jedi is probably my least favorite of the three. So you'll have to let me know when you get through all of them what you think. But I'm also listening to Empire Strikes Back version. I received my signed copy of Crimson Climb, which I have right here. E.K. Johnston signed it, so that was fun. I can't wait to read that. I'm just slower on the physical books because it feels like you can fly through stuff on e-readers and as audiobooks so much more quickly. I also listened to Phasma on a road trip, which I did not love. I wouldn't even say I liked it.
Okay.
I don't know. It just wasn't for me.
No, yeah, I was going to say, any particular reason, or?
I felt like it needed to be, if I was reading it, it probably could have been 200 pages shorter.
Right, okay. Yeah.
It was like, okay, we get it. You know, like, can we get to the point? You know, like, when it finally bounced back to, like, the present time in the narration, my husband and I were both like, oh, thank God. It's a 12-hour audiobook, and I don't think it needed to be.
Maybe an 8-hour.
Oof, it was a little rough for me. So I'm sorry if you love Phasma out there, but it just wasn't for me. So good for you, not for me. I've also read The Princess Diarist and Darth Vader, Black, White, and Red, issue number 3. And
what was that first one, sorry?
The Princess Diarist, Carrie Fisher's memoir about her time in Star Wars.
I was like, I'm not aware of this one.
Oh, really?
But no, I didn't.
You are.
Yeah, I was aware.
It's interesting.
Carrie Fisher had done a book, yeah.
Yeah. So, lots of reading.
So, and it was Darth Vader, Red, White, and Black.
Black, White, and Red, issue number 3. Because I read them on Marvel Unlimited, so I'm reading them one at a time when they come out.
Yeah, I kind of gave up on being that far behind.
Yeah.
So I buy them on Amazon and read them on Comixology.
That's smart. If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of different sort of, and I'm part of a lot of different circles, so it's like it will get spoiled for me,
right?
Otherwise, so and I like to kind of, where I can, I've picked like 4, the way I'm not just like, I'm going to keep up with you, and even some of those I'm like, I've got like 3 or 4 issues. I'm like 3 or 4 months behind.
Yeah,
could have done this on Marvel Unlimited,
but you do have to wait, and sometimes that's like, I want to read the next issue. Do I want to buy just one issue of something? My OCD won't let me.
No. I'm either all digital or all hard copy.
Yeah.
And I quickly learned that I could not get to my local comic book shop regularly enough to do it physical copies. So excellent. Obviously, outside of Phasma, was kind of a hard pass for you.
Yeah.
It was too long. That's fine. And obviously Ahsoka, very, very quick overview. You loved it.
I loved it. It was all right.
Yeah.
No, I was over the moon with every single one of those episodes of that show.
Absolutely. And obviously, if you want deeper thoughts, up to the minute without any future reference, that you, as you said, you were all over PandaVision and
I was everywhere.
you went on Animation Deliberation to prep.
Yeah, Zuhair and we did a breakdown of like Essential Rebels episodes, basically. And that was super fun because although Ahsoka has unseated it, Rebels is one of my top. I would have said before Ahsoka was my favorite Star Wars thing ever.
Well, you can kind of amalgamate Ahsoka and Rebels.
Yeah, they're kind of one and the same, aren't they?
There's a lot of connectivity between the two. And would you recommend the Darth Vader comic you read, number 3?
I like them. They're a little abstract and they're not connected. So if you're looking for interconnected stories about Darth Vader, that's not what these are. It's kind of an anthology. Would be, I'd say, the best way to describe it, because it's kind of like short story, short story, short story. But I like them, and I always like getting more story reference for the characters. So yeah,
I think I spoke about that on my last episode, and I said that I wouldn't recommend it because it was just a little bit too weird.
It is weird. It definitely is weird. But I think I kind of like the avant-garde nature of it, and I don't really know if I have a reason why. I think just it's very singular.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think my thought process was I really liked the idea of it, and I thought the art-wise, they pulled it off really well. There was just no story to grip me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm bouncing around stories in a 26 page comic. My form of storytelling is always 3-issue arcs or 4-issue arcs or even 10-issue arcs or whatever. And so this just felt like it just felt too short and not enough emphasis. And I think because I read in groups, so I'll go on a Darth Vader binge. Then reading that, it was kind of like I've had this long form storytelling where he's involved with Aphra, with Bocce of Bestoon, and all these other different characters, and they're talking about weird, wonderful things in the Force with the Emperor, and then it's just kind of this weird, he kills everything sort of short stories, and you lose a lot of the complexity of the character of Vader. Yeah,
he is just kind of a fairly mindless killing machine in these stories.
Which there's a place in the world for that with Vader.
If that's your thing.
Don't be a youngling around it. So looking at what I've done in the
James's month in Star Wars.
It is very much my month in Star Wars. So mine, obviously finished Ahsoka. I think we've said enough about that. I loved it, and if you want deep musings about that, check out Source Pages. I was a guest on the 2 review episodes as well as the Rebels prep. Highly recommend Ahsoka if you like lore and sort of the mystical part of Star Wars. Comics wise, I went on a bit of a tear with comics this last month because I just hadn't caught up with them for a little while. So I read The Blade, number 3 and 4. I really struggled with phase 2 of the High Republic, where I think I was just tired of getting to know loads of new characters.
And then they gave you a whole new set of them.
yeah. And I was just like, I don't know who anyone is. And I haven't got the bandwidth to think about who anyone is.
I think that the Phase 2 High Republic comics suffered the most. I didn't enjoy them much at all. I kind of felt like I was reading them just to read them and check it off my list. And that's not probably what they were going for. So I almost feel bad saying that, but that was what it felt like.
It kind of felt like, and they're doing it with Mandalorian and Obi-Wan Kenobi, it felt like a comic retelling of the novels and the audio drama. The thing I loved about phase 1 was it was all over the place. You had the Drengir in the first arc. You kind of worked your way around the galaxy and then finally got back to Starlight, and it just added to the Fallen Star. Whereas this, it just felt like how many different ways you could tell the same story.
Right. And it was all set on Jeddah, and that didn't make it feel very broad, like you were saying the phase 1 comics did. So I agree with that.
There were some really good additions to phase 2, being the Path books. I can never remember the first one. Path of Deceit.
Yes.
Path of Deceit.
Yes.
And Path of Vengeance.
Yeah, loved those.
Quest for Planet X. That was really good, and that looks like it might be playing into phase 3 a little bit. I really enjoyed those, but I really didn't get on with the comic series or the main novels and the audiobook.
I liked Convergence and Cataclysm. Those were both phase 2, right? I liked those. I liked all of the adult novels. I didn't care for the audio drama at all.
No.
Like, at all.
Because I listen to them audio. I just don't have time to sit down and actually read a book anymore, which is heartbreaking. I love reading books.
That time will come back to you, don't worry.
It will. But yeah, it's I think because I was listening to it, I was probably just tuning it out a lot, and it was just kind of becoming background noise, and that's when I know I'm not enjoying something.
Yeah.
I often judge a TV show. How many times did I pick up my phone during the episode? Certainly episodes 1 to 6 of Ahsoka, I didn't. I was glued to the screen.
I had my phone turned upside down, and I was just like, it's the same way with Loki season 2 right now. Phone down, don't want to see anything. I'm totally engrossed in what's going on.
See, mine was face up, and that's how I know I'm locked in. It'll go, and I'll look at it and be like, oh, that's whoever, like whatever.
Oh, that's Hayley. I do not want to talk to her right now. I'm watching Ahsoka.
Sometimes.
The time difference would make that not so, but it's a good example.
Yeah. Although with Loki, I have been having to watch that in the evenings.
That's true. Yeah, they switched it up on us.
Oh, they have. They've ruined it for us Brits in terms of...
I know. They were like, Europe, you've had your time. It's now America's going to get prime time.
It used to be, it was released 8 o'clock Friday morning, whatever it was. And so I could do the nursery run, drop at least one, quite often 2 kids off to nursery. I'd get back. My wife will have gone to work. And then, so like season 2 finale of Mandalorian, I sat there on my own with 50 minutes before I start work. And like 2 minutes before I'm starting work, I'm sat there with tears running down my face going, I've just seen Luke.
That was such a great episode.
So
I want to
good.
rewatch that show now.
I rewatched season 2, episode 5, the one with Ahsoka.
Mm.
And then I am meaning to, I just haven't got around to it, going to watch the season 2 finale just because I need to see that episode as a whole. I've seen the X-Wing come in so many times as like a clip. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I've read Dark Droids 2 and 3. Still too early, but I think I'm going to enjoy it. I didn't realize just how big that crossover is, and I sent a tweet out to Splash Page, who do a podcast as well, very much focused on Star Wars comics, and said, do I need to go and read these other things? Because I kind of want a reason to read some of these things, but my wallet is not going to thank me.
Right.
Well, no, you can stick to the main story arc, but if you do want to go and read these others, then it will just enhance it. And I was like, okay, it's a bit like High Republic. Well, I'm kind of financially in on the High Republic at the moment.
Yeah, we're invested.
Yeah, we are. And I read D Squad number 1.
Okay.
And was really unsure about what that was going to be like, but I really enjoyed it. It was really good to see a lot of the different droids sort of come back together and be like, oh yeah, well, we had this squad in the Clone Wars called D Squad, and I was like,
I love that arc in the Clone Wars. I know that it's universally not liked very much, but I love it so much with the tiny little colonel guy that goes with them. Ugh, love that one.
But no, I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed it. Quite looking forward to number 2 coming out. High Republic Phase 3, issue 1, Shadow of Starlight.
I'll be reading that in 3 months.
Yeah. It's good. It is good. It feels weird to be starting a phase of the High Republic with a comic.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding of Shadow of Starlight is it's going to be sort of different people over different issues.
Okay.
They're going to be focusing on sort of bringing you up to date because it's set a year after the Fallen Star.
Okay.
So it's kind of bringing you up to date with who's done what. And this issue was heavily featured Yoda, which I was like, yeah.
You were already on board.
Yep, absolutely. And then as we mentioned earlier, I've gone hard on Darth Vader, caught up with the 2020 series, issues 28 to 36, which is volume 6 and volume 7. I read through those in like 2 nights, couldn't put them down. And weirdly, I sort of picked up and went, all right, I'm going to read some Darth Vader because I've got this volume to get through. Looked at it, and I had a pre-order coming in the following day, which was volume 7. I was like, well, that was good timing. Yeah, I've read. I'm up to date on the trade paperbacks of Darth Vader.
Wow.
And volume 6 was Rise of the Handmaidens, I believe, which is him interacting with all of the former Padme handmaidens.
Oh yes, you sent me a panel from that.
Yes, which very much looks like the style of helmet that Enoch's wearing in Ahsoka. So I haven't really heard much about that, but that might be because that was released obviously a little while ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people have made those connections yet. We might be breaking a theory here.
But it was uncanny. It looked exactly the same.
It did. It's just obviously it didn't have the gold in the middle. But
yeah.
Could be a Dathomiri or Night Sister or even Thrawn edition.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? And volume 7 was very much more of the same with the Handmaiden arc. That series and the predecessors to it. So there's a 2015, 16, and 17, 18 series of Darth Vader. They are fantastic. Like, if you enjoy Anakin stroke Vader, you get to see how he finds out Luke is his son.
Oh, cool.
And who tells him. I was quite surprised when I saw who it was. So I wasn't expecting
neat.
That. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to being able to go through the comics after I get through kind of the canon novels, because that's my plan.
Yeah, so what I generally tend to do
is
when May the 4th comes around, they always do a sale on comics for Star Wars. So I load up on the back catalogue for like the next year. So yeah, I'll work smarter, not harder. That gives me reading for the next year.
I think it's smart.
And then get your monthlies in as well.
Yeah.
But I think my next series I'm going to start soon is going to be Dr. Aphra.
Oh, very good.
Audiobook wise, I finished episode 4 from a certain point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoyed it. It was good. I wouldn't say it was a universal like and recommend. Some of the stories are pretty hit and miss, but my favorite was probably the story of the trash compactor monster.
Yeah.
I loved it because it just adds so much weird context to such a nothing
It's so
thing.
bizarre, but you're also like, yeah, no, that sounds like it makes sense.
There's a short story in there about Yoda on Dagobah, and Obi-Wan comes to visit him, and he's like, well, you're clearly dead because you're a Force ghost. What happened?
Yeah.
And it's just Obi-Wan being like,
just things.
Let's just say, for Vader, third time's the charm.
Yeah. He finally got me.
Yeah. A lucky blow.
Yeah.
And I have recently started Revan, the Legends book, due to a little side project me and Brian and Todd have got going on, where we're doing a little bit of a Star Wars book club, which I'm going to let you say the name because I think you do a brilliant impression.
The Sacred Jedi Texts.
There it is. But yeah, we're looking at reviewing some of the Legends books. At the moment, it's Legends. We might go into some canon stuff as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
Game-wise, carried on playing my account on Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and I've recently unlocked Dr. Aphra, which is something I've been working towards the last several months, and I've now moved on to the Galactic Legend Array. There were some packs recently, and it's helped a lot. So it's kind of moved that one up the priority list. So that's been fun. I always enjoy that and just do my dailies on that. And toy-wise, one is new. One is I have picked up and went, oh, I forgot I had this. So I have recently acquired the Yoda concept Pop Funko, which is hideously beautiful. So I'm very, very pleased with that, to add that to my collection. And the other one is I recently rediscovered my episode 1 communication toy.
Oh, that's cool.
I've got 7 or 8 of the microchips for it as well. So I am going to pop some batteries in it and make sure it works, and probably have some fun. It was I don't know if you know this. They took it's a lady's razor.
Oh yes, it was an old. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Gillette Venus, I want to say
something like that. It was an old. Yeah,
and they just took the blade off it, and the novels and everything of it are just left it on it and just painted it black and used it on the show. So, yeah,
a Gillette razor. Oh, what was it called? Oh my gosh, I had one of them. It's so funny. It doesn't say, but the nostalgia that just hit me.
It's one of my favorite facts of Star Wars, especially from the trilogy.
Yeah.
That was my month in Star Wars. I've had a good time.
It's a great month. Every month in Star Wars is great.
Absolutely. I'm a little bit disappointed there's no Lego, but that's just my life, really. I'm always disappointed there's no Lego.
Are you gonna get the Venator class?
Would love to.
Thing that's like $1 zillion.
I would love to. But I made a promise to my wife that I would focus my collection on Yoda.
Oh, true.
If I can find a link to Yoda.
Just get a minifig and just put him on it.
Yeah, just get a spare minifig and be like, look, he stands on the edge.
He totally came with it. He's part of the set.
Yeah. But no, so I almost certainly won't end up getting the Venator, but which is a shame because it again,
it's very cool,
very beautiful ship as well. Looking at feedback and what the you part of the universe has been up to, we've got friend of the show Josh Hoyt, who has sent an email in saying, "Hey, I've spent the last month watching Ahsoka, interacting with the saga continues, guys. Building the Lego Death Star and Lego Ahsoka sets, more Lego, good man, and interacting with me." I nearly read that as from his point of view.
From Josh's point of view.
Josh, thanks for writing in. It's always appreciated. How have you found the Lego Death Star? Which one? There's multiples.
That's a commitment.
It is. And before Spider-Man came out, I would have always thought of the Ultimate Collector Series Death Star 2. Since Spider-Man, I just think of the one that Ned drops now. So it's that's stuck in my brain. We've had Todd, who's joined us on Spark recently. He's had a busy month.
Very busy.
This is perfect. This is what I love about the Star Wars fandom. There's so much to do. So he said, took my first trip to Galaxy's Edge and had a blast. Did the trifecta of Star Tours, Smuggler's Run, and Rise of the Resistance. Also had a Ronto wrap and a Trandoshan ale. And he's also shared some pictures where he's just saying, bought some stuff too. And he met Chewbacca. Like,
Yep.
I would love to be able to do a Chewbacca impression on at will, but I'm not confident in it enough to do it.
I don't have that in me.
No. But he bought the Executor, the Super Star Destroyer, which is super cool. And he bought a lightsaber, which I think he made himself.
I believe so.
Yeah, so he's just got the hilt. I did clarify this, but he does have a red crystal with it. Very reminiscent of Count Dooku's. The Ronto wrap and Trandoshan ale does look quite delicious. One thing that I will hopefully have on my list of things in the next month is I have the Galaxy's Edge cookbook. I am hoping to get around to actually cooking something out of it. And as Josh mentioned, the Star Wars saga continues, guys. I've got an update from Tim Gerasi here as well, saying, hello, Star Wars universe. For the month of October, I, like everyone else, I'm sure, was just completely captivated by the final episodes of Ahsoka. The series more than lived up to my expectations, and I could not be happier with how it ended. I've also been getting caught up on some Star Wars comics through Marvel Unlimited, and one issue I'd like to highlight is Star Wars 36, which was a cool story about the rebels going on a mission to Coruscant to make a statement against the Empire, and it gives us the first meeting between Lando and Nien Nunb, and why they end up piloting the Falcon together in Return of the Jedi. Definitely recommend checking out that fun issue.
Very
Thank you,
cool.
Tim. I am slowly getting there on that. My immediate next on the comics is to go back a step to In Between New Hope and Empire, where I think I've got 3 volumes left that run before I move on to Empire to Jedi. I will keep an eye out for that issue.
And next on the feedback, we have a voice note from Brian Klein, BVK.
So pretty much what I've been doing the last month for Star Wars is obviously finishing up Ahsoka, which was awesome. I started reading the Revan novel by Drew Karpyshyn because that is one of the best, if not the best, Star Wars novel that has ever been written. And I've also been just like adding new pieces to my Funko Star Wars collection and my Hasbro Star Wars collection. So other than that, it's pretty much been, a normal month or so. But, Star Wars is forever. It's awesome. So bye.
Not Brian getting more Funko Pops.
I know. I dread to think what his collection looks like. In fact, I do need to ask him to send me a picture.
It's impressive.
I've seen it behind him.
Yeah.
When he's been recording and we've been on calls together and stuff. But now he's obviously moved, hasn't he? So I dread to think the packing up process that.
I think there's future plans for it to be displayed in all of its glory.
As it rightly deserves to be. I think his Hasbro collection is mainly the Black Series as well, which are very articulated and detailed. But I think he's also got quite a lot of the original 3.75 inch stuff from the 70s and 80s as well.
I think so, yeah.
I'm always very jealous whenever I see his toy collection.
And the final bit of feedback we have this month comes from Sean McMillan, one of the hosts of the Galactic War Report podcast.
Boshuda, everybody. This is Sean from the Galactic War Report, a Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes podcast that's better than some and worse than others. I have had a fun couple of weeks in my life. There's been a lot of change and Star Wars is always a part of my life, but in the last couple of weeks, it's been a lot of my life. So I go to school online, and I just finished a session there. I only have one class left, so I have a lighter workload, which means more time for Star Wars and stuff like that. I podcast about Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, so that's a mobile game, and it's a daily grind where you work and work and work and work, and 6 months from now, you'll have that thing that you wanted, right? But they've been surprising us with little additive little bonuses, some packs that are very affordable, and kind of some goodwill sprinkled toward the players, and that's really cool. That's been very fun to go through and to talk about on the show. I also, with my my new free time, have put a lot of work into my Twitch channel. So I've been streaming Galaxy of Heroes. If you're not into Galaxy of Heroes, I suppose this whole segment isn't really going to catch you. But if you like it, I've been streaming it on Twitch as The Other Sean, and that's SEAN. And it's cool. Like I stream the competitive aspect of it, what they call Grand Arena Championships. So I hop on for an hour or two and do a few matches against some opponent somewhere in the world. And I try to, I trash talk them a little, but try to be respectful. And the fun part for me has been interacting with the audience so they can actually talk back to me and chat with me and prevent me from making the huge mistakes that I usually make when left to my own devices, which is kind of helpful. As far as other Star Wars stuff, like Ahsoka just wrapped, right? That was huge. I'm a crier, so my kids got to see me cry almost every episode. As soon as Hayden showed up, forget about it, in tears. And then I'm kind of a collector, but I'm kind of not right now. I'm at a point where the Black Series has taken over my studio that I record in, and I don't have much more room, so I kind of had to pull the brakes on that. So I'm just kind of picking up key, like, if I see a vintage Kenner figure that I don't have, or one that's in better condition than the version I have, I pick that up. I'm still picking up a couple of those X-Wing miniatures game pieces too. I haven't played the game in a long time, but I display them because they're amazing little ships. But that's about it for collectibles. Thank you, James, for having me on to talk about this. It's always like I said, it's always a big part of my life. It's a lot of my philosophy of life comes from Star Wars, stuff you learn from it, and then some of it clicks better than others, but it's a really cool idea for a show. Thanks for having me on, and good luck in the future.
I think that concludes our feedback for this month. Thank you to everyone who's contributed, and I look forward to hearing what you've done in the coming month as well. Hayley, where can we find you?
You can find me on the aforementioned Source Pages, a reading collective. We read comics and novels as source material for all the geeky TV shows and movies that we love. And James has been on there for Star Wars, and I'm sure will continue to be on as part of our Spark Jedi Council that we have. I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm also on Multiverse News, which is a weekly entertainment news show, which comes out on Wednesdays, and you can watch it on Spotify or YouTube or listen to it in its audio form. And today we dropped an episode that was a movie review, so Multiverse Reviews, for Killers of the Flower Moon, which just came out and is an excellent movie that I strongly recommend everybody go see.
But yeah, so you can contact the show at Star Wars UPod on Twitter or at StarWarsUpod@gmail.com. You can interact with me there. You can update me there on what's been going on, and I'm always happy to have a chat.
If you are looking for some podcast recommendations, there are Children of the Watch, Source Pages, Multiverse News, Galactic War Report, Star Wars Splash Page, Star Wars 7x7, and Star Wars The Saga Continues. So that's it for us this month. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to hearing from you and updating you next month. May the Force be with you, always.
May the Force be with you.